I visited my son's grave every morning. Same time, same flowers, same silence that pressed against my chest like a stone. But that Tuesday, when the mist hung low over the cemetery paths, I saw her. A young woman, maybe 25, sitting on the ground beside Daniel's headstone with a child in her arms. She was crying, not the polite, controlled crying I'd mastered over the past year. Real, raw sobbing that shook her thin shoulders. And she was touching his name with her fingertips, like she had the right. I stopped walking. My hand tightened around the white roses I'd brought. Who was this girl? And why was she at my son's grave, holding that little girl like they belonged there? "Excuse me," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Who are you?" She looked up, startled. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with tears. The child, maybe 3 years old, stared at me with wide, dark eyes that made something twist in my stomach. I'm sorry," the young woman stammered, starting to stand. "I didn't mean to. What are you doing at my son's grave?" The words came out cold, like ice cracking. She froze. Her mouth opened, then closed. And in that moment, standing in the gray morning light, with the smell of wet grass all around us, I had no idea that everything I thought I knew about my son, about myself, about what it meant to be a mother, was about to shatter into pieces I might never put back together. If you've ever lost someone and thought you knew their whole story, please subscribe. This channel is new, and every day we're sharing stories that remind us how little we sometimes know about the people we love most. There's more here than you expect. My name is Helena Prado. Before that morning, I would have told you I knew my son completely. Daniel was brilliant, focused, destined to take over Prado Industries when I stepped down. He was 28 when the car accident took him. 1 year, 3 months, and 17 days ago. Not that I was counting. I built that company from almost nothing after my husband died. 72-hour weeks. Negotiations that left other executives trembling. Decisions that required a spine of steel. Daniel was supposed to inherit all of it. He understood that. He'd always understood. Or so I thought. The young woman was still standing there, the child clinging to her neck now, watching me with those unsettling eyes. She wore jeans with a hole in one knee, and a jacket that had seen better years. Her hair needed cutting. She looked like she belonged in a different world entirely. Not here in the section where the Prado family monument stood. Marble and bronze. Impossible to miss. "I asked you a question," I said, softer this time. Something about her face, the genuine fear there, made me pause. "How did you know my son?" She swallowed hard. The child whispered something, and the young woman kissed her forehead before setting her down carefully on the grass. "My name is Lara," she said quietly. "Lara Nunes. And this is Sophia." She touched the little girl's dark curls. "Daniel's daughter." The world tilted. I actually put my hand out to steady myself against the headstone, my fingers brushing Daniel's name carved in granite. The white roses fell from my other hand, scattering across the ground. "That's not possible." My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Daniel didn't have a child. I would have known. He would have told me. Lara's face crumpled. "He wanted to," she whispered. "He tried. But you wouldn't listen." I didn't remember driving home. One moment I was standing in the cemetery, staring at this girl who claimed my son had a daughter, and the next, I was sitting in my study with my hands shaking so badly I had to put down my coffee cup. The dark wood paneling that usually made me feel powerful now felt like it was closing in. My phone buzzed. My cousin Regina. I ignored it. She'd been calling more frequently since Daniel died, always with suggestions about the company, about moving forward, about not dwelling in the past. Regina had never understood loss. She'd never had children. I opened my laptop instead and searched for Lara Nunes. There wasn't much. A Facebook profile with privacy settings that blocked most details, but I could see one photo. Her and Daniel, sitting on a bench somewhere, his arm around her shoulders. He was laughing. Really laughing. The way I hadn't seen him laugh in years. The photo was dated 3 years ago. 3 years. How had I missed 3 entire years of my son's life? The next morning, I went back to the cemetery. Lara was there again, sitting on a small blanket with Sophia, who was arranging leaves in a pattern. The child hummed while she worked, completely absorbed. "We need to talk," I said. Lara looked up, and I saw the exhaustion in her face. Dark circles under her eyes, that hollow look of someone who wasn't sleeping. Wasn't eating enough. Mrs. Prado, she started to gather their things. Please, don't leave. The words surprised me. I sat down on the bench nearby, my expensive coat inappropriate against the weathered wood. Tell me about him. About Daniel and you. She was quiet for a long moment. Sophia brought her a red leaf, and Lara smiled, tucking it into the child's hair. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. We met at a coffee shop. I was working there, trying to save money for school. He came in every morning, always ordered the same thing. Black coffee, no sugar. We started talking, her fingers twisted in her lap. He never told me who his family was. Not at first. He just seemed lonely, like he needed someone to see him as just Daniel, not as a Prado. The name of my family, the company, had weight in this city. Everyone knew it. Everyone wanted something from it. When did he tell you about us? I asked. 6 months in, after he'd already fallen in love with me. She said it simply, without pride or shame. He was terrified of how you'd react. I would have welcomed you. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. I remembered the conversations Daniel and I had during those years, the subtle pressure I'd applied about appropriate matches, about women from families we knew, about maintaining our position. I'd never said it directly, but the message had been clear. Lara's sad smile told me she knew it too. He brought me to meet you once, she said softly. 2.5 years ago. Do you remember? You were having a dinner party. He said it was casual, that you'd asked him to bring a friend. I searched my memory. There had been so many dinners, so many faces. Then it came back. A young woman, quiet, standing near the door in a simple dress while everyone else wore designer labels. She'd said hello and I'd barely acknowledged her. I'd been busy with the mayor's wife, with the CEO of a company we were trying to acquire. Daniel had looked disappointed, but I'd thought he was just being sensitive. You looked at me, Lara continued, her voice breaking slightly, and I saw exactly what you thought, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't belong. Daniel took me home early. He tried again a few months later, asked if he could bring me to lunch. You said you were too busy. The coffee grew cold in my hands. I couldn't remember that conversation specifically, but I remembered the tone I'd used when Daniel mentioned dating. Dismissive, impatient. There were more important things to focus on than relationships that wouldn't last. When did you get pregnant? I asked. A year before he died. We were already living together by then, in a small apartment across town. He paid for it himself, didn't want to use family money. Said he wanted to prove he could take care of us on his own. She wiped her eyes. When I found out about Sophia, he was so happy. He wanted to tell you right away, but I convinced him to wait. I was scared of what you'd do, how you'd react. I thought we had time. Sophia came over and climbed into her mother's lap, sensing the emotion even if she didn't understand it. She couldn't have been more than 3, which meant, where were you when he died? I asked. 5 months pregnant. He'd been trying to reach you all week. He had this whole speech prepared about how he was going to be a father, how he wanted you to be part of Sophia's life. He was on his way to your office when she couldn't finish. She didn't have to. The accident. Rush hour traffic. A truck ran a red light. Daniel died instantly. The police said he never saw it coming. I heard about it on the news. Lara whispered. I tried to come to the funeral, but security turned me away. Said I wasn't on the list. I stood outside in the rain and watched through the gates. I had planned that funeral like a business event. Controlled, dignified, properly formal. The list had been carefully curated. Important people, business associates, family friends. It had never occurred to me that someone might be missing. Someone who actually loved him. I started coming to the cemetery every day at the same time Lara did. At first she seemed nervous, like she expected me to have her arrested or thrown out. But I just wanted to know my son, the version of Daniel I'd never met. He used to read to me, Lara told me one morning, while Sophia played with a butterfly that had landed near the headstone. Poetry, mostly. He said it was the one thing he did that had nothing to do with business or expectations, just words that made him feel something. I'd never known Daniel liked poetry. I'd filled his childhood with tennis lessons, debate team, business camps, things that would prepare him for real life. When had I stopped asking what he wanted? He was good with his hands, Lara continued, smiling at a memory. He'd fix things around the apartment, the sink, the door that stuck. He said it made him feel useful in a real way, not just pushing papers and sitting in meetings. I thought about the meetings I'd dragged him to, starting when he was 16. Teach him early, I'd thought. Give him every advantage. Sophia walked over to me one morning, holding a dandelion. She was wearing a pink jacket that was slightly too small, and her shoes had been carefully mended. She studied my face seriously, then held out the flower. "For Grandma," she said. The word hit me like a physical blow. Grandma. This child, with Daniel's eyes and his serious expression when she concentrated, was my granddaughter, and I'd had no idea she existed. I took the dandelion with shaking hands. "Thank you, Sophia." She smiled, and it was Daniel's smile, the real one, the one I'd seen less and less as he got older and the weight of expectations settled on his shoulders. That afternoon, I called my lawyer, not Dr. Marcelo Tavares, the family attorney who'd been with Prado Industries for 20 years. Someone independent, someone who wouldn't immediately report back to Regina and the board. "I need you to look into something," I said, quietly. "I need to know what my options are regarding a potential heir, a grandchild." There was a pause. "Mrs. Prado, I wasn't aware Daniel had any children. Neither was I." I looked at the dandelion, now in a small vase on my desk. "But he did, and I need to know how to protect her." The problem was, I'd already told Regina about Lara. A moment of weakness, a phone call where I'd needed to talk to someone. I should have known better. 2 days later, Regina showed up at my office with Dr. Tavares and 2 other members of the board. They closed the door with the kind of finality that made my stomach sink. "Helena, we need to discuss this situation," Regina said, sitting down without being invited. She wore a steel gray suit that matched her personality. "This girl who's making claims about Daniel. Her name is Lara, and she's not making claims. She's telling the truth." Dr. Tavares opened his briefcase with crisp efficiency. "With all due respect, Mrs. Prado, we only have this young woman's word. No documentation, no proof of paternity, nothing that would stand up legally. She has a child who looks exactly like my son. Physical resemblance isn't proof." Regina leaned forward. "Helena, think about what you're doing. The company is in a delicate position right now. The merger with Castellano Industries is still being negotiated. If word gets out that there's a potential heir, someone who could claim part of Daniel's estate, it could derail everything. I don't care about the merger." The room went silent. I'd never said those words before. The company had always come first. Always. "You're emotional," Regina said carefully. "That's understandable. But you need to think clearly. This girl could be anyone. She could have read about Daniel in the papers, seen an opportunity. Young, poor, with a child to support. Stop." I stood up. "Just stop. She's not a con artist. She loved my son. And that's his daughter." "Then prove it," Dr. Tavares said smoothly. "A simple DNA test. Surely if this Lara is telling the truth, she won't object. And if it's positive, then we can discuss next steps. Proper legal arrangements, appropriate financial support. You want to buy her off. I want to protect this family's interests." Regina's voice hardened. "Which is what you should be doing. Helena, you're allowing grief to cloud your judgment. This girl shows up crying at a grave, spins a sad story, and suddenly you're ready to hand over your son's inheritance? To someone we know nothing about?" I looked at each of them. Regina, who'd never loved anyone more than she loved power. Dr. Tavares, who saw people as potential liabilities. The board members, who measured everything in profit margins and risk assessment. "Get out," I said quietly. "Helena, get out of my office. All of you." They left, but I knew it wasn't over. Regina paused at the door. "You're making a mistake. When you're ready to think rationally, we'll talk again." After they'd gone, I sat in the silence and realized something. I'd spent my entire adult life building and protecting the Prado empire. I'd sacrificed time with my son, warmth for control, love for respect. And now, faced with the chance to know the family Daniel had actually chosen, the family he'd actually loved, I had a choice to make. The company or the truth, power or redemption. I found Lara at her apartment. It took some effort. She wasn't listed, and she'd never given me the address. But I had resources, and I used them. The building was in a part of town I rarely visited. Paint peeling, stairs that creaked, the smell of cooking oil and old cigarette smoke in the hallways. She answered the door with Sophia on her hip, surprise and wariness mixing on her face. "Mrs. Prado, how did you..." May I come in? She hesitated, then stepped back. The apartment was tiny, one room serving as kitchen, living room, and dining room, with a doorway leading to what I assumed was a small bedroom. But it was clean, organized with the kind of care that comes from having very little and taking pride in it anyway. Children's drawings on the walls, a small bookshelf made from cinder blocks and planks, filled with worn paperbacks and board books. I'm sorry it's not much, Lara said, setting Sophia down. The little girl immediately went to a basket of toys in the corner. It's fine. I looked at the books. Several poetry collections, Byron, Frost, Pablo Neruda, Daniel's favorites. Lara, I need to ask you something. My family wants proof. They want a DNA test. Her face closed off. Of course they do. I'm not asking for me, I believe you. But legally, if I want to protect Sophia, if I want to set up a trust fund, ensure she has access to Daniel's estate, I don't want his money. Her voice was sharp. I never wanted his money. I just wanted him to know his daughter. I understand. But Sophia deserves security. She deserves to have what Daniel would have wanted her to have. Lara turned away, her shoulders tense. And what happens after the test? When they prove she's a Prado? Do they try to take her from me? Tell me I'm not fit to raise her because I work 2 jobs and live in a place like this? No. I stood up, moving closer. No, Lara, I won't let that happen. But I need you to trust me. Please. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the battle happening behind her eyes. Fear, hope, exhaustion, desperation. Why should I trust you? She asked softly. You didn't want me in Daniel's life. You made that clear. You're right. I did. And I was wrong. The words felt like broken glass in my throat. I was so focused on what I thought Daniel should be that I never asked what he actually wanted. I pushed away the person who made him happy. I never even gave you a chance. And I can't fix that. I can't bring him back or undo the time we lost. But I can try to do better now. For Sophia. And for you. If you'll let me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. He talked about you all the time, she whispered. Even when he was hurt. Even when you pushed him away. He loved you. He just wanted you to see him. The sob came out of nowhere, breaking through the walls I'd built so carefully over the years. I covered my mouth, but it was too late. Everything I'd been holding back since that morning in the cemetery, since Daniel's death, since all the years of choosing control over connection, came flooding out. Lara crossed the room and put her arms around me. This girl I'd dismissed, this woman I'd thought wasn't good enough for my son, held me while I cried. And Sophia, sensing something important was happening, came over and patted my leg with her small hand. It's okay, Grandma, she said solemnly. Daddy's in heaven, but he's not sad anymore. I looked down at her through my tears. How do you know that, sweetheart? Mommy told me. She says Daddy is watching us, and he wants us to be happy. Even when we're sad, we gotta try. I knelt down so I was at her level. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. Daniel's eyes, his nose, the way her eyebrows drew together when she was serious. Your daddy was lucky to have you, I said. And so am I. She considered this, then threw her arms around my neck in a hug that smelled like baby shampoo and graham crackers. Over her shoulder, I saw Lara watching us, and something in her expression shifted. Not forgiveness? Not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. The DNA test came back positive. Not that I doubted it, but the legal confirmation made everything real. Sophia Nunes was Daniel Prado's daughter, my granddaughter. Legally, undeniably mine. Regina's reaction was exactly what I expected. She called an emergency board meeting, brought in Dr. Tavares with a stack of papers, and laid out what she called a reasonable solution. A trust fund, she explained, sliding documents across the conference table. Managed by the company until Sophia turns 25. Monthly stipend for her mother, modest but sufficient. In exchange, Lara signs over any claim to Daniel's primary estate, agrees not to use the Prado name publicly, and accepts that Sophia will have limited involvement with the family until she's old enough to understand the response. May I come in? She hesitated, then stepped back. The apartment was tiny, one room serving as kitchen, living room, and dining room, with a doorway leading to what I assumed was a small bedroom. But it was clean, organized with the kind of care that comes from having very little and taking pride in it anyway. Children's drawings on the walls, a small bookshelf made from cinder blocks and planks, filled with worn paperbacks and board books. I'm sorry it's not much, Lara said, setting Sophia down. The little girl immediately went to a basket of toys in the corner. It's fine. I looked at the books. Several poetry collections. Byron, Frost, Pablo Neruda, Daniel's favorites. Lara, I need to ask you something. My family wants proof. They want a DNA test. Her face closed off. Of course they do. I'm not asking for me, I believe you. But legally, if I want to protect Sophia, if I want to set up a trust fund, ensure she has access to Daniel's estate, I don't want his money. Her voice was sharp. I never wanted his money. I just wanted him to know his daughter. I understand. But Sophia deserves security. She deserves to have what Daniel would have wanted her to have. Lara turned away, her shoulders tense. And what happens after the test? When they prove she's a Prado? Do they try to take her from me? Tell me I'm not fit to raise her because I work 2 jobs and live in a place like this? No. I stood up, moving closer. No, Lara, I won't let that happen. But I need you to trust me. Please. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the battle happening behind her eyes. Fear, hope, exhaustion, desperation. Why should I trust you? She asked softly. You didn't want me in Daniel's life. You made that clear. You're right. I did. And I was wrong. The words felt like broken glass in my throat. I was so focused on what I thought Daniel should be that I never asked what he actually wanted. I pushed away the person who made him happy. I never even gave you a chance. And I can't fix that. I can't bring him back or undo the time we lost. But I can try to do better now. For Sophia. And for you. If you'll let me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. He talked about you all the time, she whispered. Even when he was hurt. Even when you pushed him away. He loved you. He just wanted you to see him. The sob came out of nowhere, breaking through the walls I'd built so carefully over the years. I covered my mouth, but it was too late. Everything I'd been holding back since that morning in the cemetery, since Daniel's death, since all the years of choosing control over connection, came flooding out. Lara crossed the room and put her arms around me. This girl I'd dismissed, this woman I'd thought wasn't good enough for my son, held me while I cried. And Sophia, sensing something important was happening, came over and patted my leg with her small hand. It's okay, Grandma, she said solemnly. Daddy's in heaven, but he's not sad anymore. I looked down at her through my tears. How do you know that, sweetheart? Mommy told me. She says Daddy is watching us, and he wants us to be happy. Even when we're sad, we gotta try. I knelt down so I was at her level. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. Daniel's eyes, his nose, the way her eyebrows drew together when she was serious. Your daddy was lucky to have you, I said. And so am I. She considered this, then threw her arms around my neck in a hug that smelled like baby shampoo and graham crackers. Over her shoulder, I saw Lara watching us, and something in her expression shifted. Not forgiveness? Not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. The DNA test came back positive. Not that I doubted it, but the legal confirmation made everything real. Sophia Nunes was Daniel Prado's daughter, my granddaughter. Legally, undeniably mine. Regina's reaction was exactly what I expected. She called an emergency board meeting, brought in Dr. Tavares with a stack of papers, and laid out what she called a reasonable solution. A trust fund, she explained, sliding documents across the conference table. Managed by the company until Sophia turns 25. Monthly stipend for her mother, modest but sufficient. In exchange, Lara signs over any claim to Daniel's primary estate, agrees not to use the Prado name publicly, and accepts that Sophia will have limited involvement with the family until she's old enough to understand the responsibilities that come with her heritage. You want to pay them to disappear? I said flatly. I want to protect this family, Regina shot back. Helena, be reasonable. This girl comes from nothing. She has no education, no prospects, no understanding of our world. Do you really want Sophia growing up confused, torn between 2 completely different lives? It's kinder this way. Lara gets support, Sophia gets financial security, and we maintain stability. And I get nothing. You get to preserve your son's legacy, the company he was supposed to lead. I looked at the papers. The numbers were generous, I had to admit. More money than Lara had probably seen in her entire life. A guaranteed future for Sophia. On paper, it looked fair. reasonable. The kind of clean solution I would have proposed myself 2 months ago. But I'd seen Sophia arrange leaves at her father's grave. I'd heard Lara talk about Daniel with a love so genuine, it made my own relationship with my son look hollow. I'd felt my granddaughter's arms around my neck and heard her say "Grandma," like it meant something real. "No," I said. Regina blinked. "I'm sorry? No, I'm not signing this. And neither is Lara. Helena," Dr. Tavares started. "Sophia is a Prado. That means she belongs here, with family, real family, not hidden away like something shameful." I stood up, gathering my things. "I'm establishing a trust fund, yes, but it's going to be transparent, generous, and come with no strings attached. Lara will have full custody, full autonomy, and both of them will be welcome at every family event, every holiday, every moment that matters." "You can't be serious." Regina's voice rose. "You're going to let some waitress—" "Careful." My voice went cold. "That waitress loved my son, which is more than I can say for anyone in this room." I walked out before anyone could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long I'd forgotten it was there, and finally, I'd set it down. The next few weeks were a war. Regina tried to rally the board against me. Dr. Tavares drafted documents attempting to limit my authority. There were threatening letters, veiled warnings about hostile takeovers, suggestions that perhaps I wasn't mentally fit to run the company anymore. I'd never cared less about any of it. Instead, I spent my time with Lara and Sophia. I helped Lara apply for school. She'd always wanted to finish her degree in education. I bought Sophia new clothes, toys, books. I took them to lunch at restaurants where the staff recognized my name, and I didn't care what they thought about my companions. And one afternoon, while looking through the boxes of Daniel's belongings that I'd been too afraid to touch, I found the letters. They were in his handwriting, sealed in envelopes with names on them. One for me, one for Lara, one for Sophia, to be opened when she was older. I called Lara immediately. "Can you come over? I found something." She arrived with Sophia, and we sat in my living room, these letters between us like small bombs waiting to go off. I opened mine with trembling hands. "Mom, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm so sorry. Sorry I never found the courage to make you really see me. Sorry I wasn't strong enough to stand up to you. Sorry I let you push away the best thing that ever happened to me. Lara is everything you're not, and I mean that in the best possible way. She's soft where you're hard. She's accepting where you judge. She loves without conditions, without expectations, without needing me to be anything other than myself. I know you thought I needed someone from the right family, someone who understood our world. But Mom, our world is cold. It's lonely, and I didn't want that life. I wanted warmth. I wanted love. I wanted what you and Dad had before he died, and you turned into someone who only knew how to protect and control. I'm going to be a father, and I'm terrified. Not because I don't think I can do it, but because I don't know if I can protect my daughter from becoming what you tried to make me. Someone who values success over happiness, power over connection. But I'm going to try. And if something happens to me, if you're reading this after I'm gone, I need you to promise me something. Take care of them, both of them. Not with money, though God knows they'll need that, but with love. Real, messy, unconditional love. The kind you forgot how to give. They're my family, Mom, and I need you to make them yours. I love you. I always will, even when you made it hard. Daniel. The letter blurred in my hands. Lara was crying too, reading her own letter. Sophia looked between us, confused but quiet, sensing this was important. "What did he say to you?" I asked. Lara wiped her eyes. "He said he loved me, that if something happened to him, I should take Sophia to you, that you were hard on the outside, but you weren't broken. Not really. That underneath everything, you were still the mother who read him stories and kissed his scraped knees and promised him the world would be okay." She looked at me. "He believed in you, Helena, even when you didn't give him reason to." I thought about all the times I'd been too busy, the school plays I'd missed, the conversations I'd cut short, the way I'd measured his worth by achievements instead of just loving him for being mine. "I want to make this right," I said. "I know I can't change the past, but I want to be what he asked me to be. For Sophia, for you, for him." Lara reached over and took my hand. "Then let's figure it out. Together." Sophia got sick 3 weeks later. A fever that wouldn't break. A cough that scared both of us. Lara called me at midnight, her voice shaking. Something's wrong. She's burning up, and I don't know what to do. I'm coming. Take her to St. Catherine's Hospital. I'll meet you there. I drove through empty streets with my heart pounding, thinking about Daniel's funeral, about loss, about all the ways life can rip away the people we love before we're ready. When I got to the hospital, Lara was in the emergency room, holding Sophia, who was crying weakly. I'm here, I said, sitting beside them. I'm here. The doctors ran tests. Bacterial infection, they said. Serious but treatable. They admitted Sophia, started her on IV antibiotics, and said we'd know more in 24 hours. Those 24 hours were the longest of my life. Lara and I took turns sitting beside Sophia's hospital bed, holding her small hand, telling her stories, promising her she'd be okay. During one of the early morning hours when Sophia was finally sleeping peacefully, Lara turned to me. I was so angry at you, she said quietly. When Daniel died and you didn't even know I existed, I thought you were heartless. I thought you were everything wrong with people who have power. You weren't wrong. No, but you weren't right either. She looked at Sophia, this little person we both loved so fiercely. People are complicated. You did the best you could with what you knew, and now you're doing better. That's what matters. He asked me to love you both, I said. In his letter. That's what he asked for. Do you? Lara's voice was soft. Love us, I mean. I thought about the answer. The old me would have said something about duty, or obligation, or making amends. But sitting there in that hospital room, watching my granddaughter sleep, remembering my son's words, I realized the truth. Yes, I said. I do. Sophia recovered. It took a week, but she recovered. And when we brought her home, to my house, because Lara and I both agreed that tiny apartment wasn't safe enough anymore, she ran through the rooms like she owned them, which, in a way, she did. Regina stopped fighting after that. Maybe she saw something in my face that told her she'd already lost. Or maybe she just got tired. Either way, the board meetings became less hostile. The family events became less tense. And slowly, grudgingly, the Prados began to accept that things had changed. 6 months after I first saw Lara at Daniel's grave, the three of us went back together. It was a clear morning, the kind where the light comes through the trees in golden shafts. Sophia brought her father a drawing she'd made, a family portrait, with stick figures labeled Mommy, Grandma, and me, with an angel floating above them labeled Daddy. He'd love this, Lara said, placing it on the headstone with a stone to keep it from blowing away. I love you, Daddy, Sophia said seriously, patting the granite. Grandma's teaching me how to play piano, and Mommy's going to school, and we live in a big house now, but we still visit you all the time. I knelt beside her. Do you know what your daddy's last wish was, Sophia? She shook her head. He wanted us to be a family, a real family, all of us together. Are we? She asked. A real family. I looked at Lara, this strong, gentle woman who'd loved my son with the kind of love that doesn't demand or control or try to change someone into what they're not. And I thought about Daniel, who'd been brave enough to choose his own life even when I made it hard. Yes, I said. We are. Sophia hugged me, and then hugged her mother, and we stood there together beside Daniel's grave, while the morning light warmed the stone. It wasn't the family I'd planned. It wasn't the legacy I'd imagined, but it was real, and it was ours, and it was built on something stronger than money, or name, or power. It was built on love, the kind that forgives, the kind that changes you, the kind that Daniel had tried to teach me all along. I think about that morning in the cemetery sometimes. The shock of seeing Lara there, the anger I felt, the way I demanded to know who she was. I thought I was protecting Daniel's memory. I thought I was defending my family's name. But what I was really doing was trying to protect myself from the truth, that I'd been wrong, that I'd hurt my son, that I'd missed so much of his life because I was too busy controlling it. Lara and Sophia gave me something I didn't deserve and couldn't have earned on my own. They gave me a second chance, a chance to be the person Daniel believed I could be, the mother he needed, even if he never got to see it, the grandmother Sophia deserves. We still visit his grave together, every Tuesday morning. Sophia brings him pictures and tells him about her week. Lara brings flowers, and I bring gratitude, for the son who loved me anyway, for the woman who was brave enough to forgive me, and for the little girl who calls me grandma and means it. This isn't a story about redemption, really. Or maybe it is, but not the kind where everything gets fixed and tied up neatly. I still make mistakes. Lara and I still disagree sometimes. Sophia still has nightmares about the father she'll never really know. But we show up. We love each other through the hard parts. And every day, we try to honor Daniel's last wish, to be a family. Not perfect, not what anyone expected, just real. If this story made you think about the people in your life that you might have pushed away, or the chances you didn't take to really see someone, then it's done what I hoped it would. We all have opportunities to choose love over pride, connection over control. We just have to be brave enough to take them. Sophia turned 4 last month. We had a party in the garden, with cake and balloons and too much noise, watching her blow out her candles, surrounded by people who love her, not because of her last name, but because of who she is. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. This channel shares stories about people finding their way back to what matters. Stories about hidden kindness, second chances, and the bonds that make us human. If you believe in that kind of story, if you need to remember that change is possible no matter how far you've gone in the wrong direction, then subscribe. Share this with someone who needs hope. Some stories deserve to be told, and some families deserve a second beginning.